Hello, in this video I'm going to be talking about herbaria and their purpose, and I'll talk specifically about the one at UVU as well. And when I say herbaria, I mean more than one herbarium, so it's the plural of herbarium. And this picture here is just a picture of the door to the herbarium at UVU. It's in SB 277. So first I want to talk about what an herbarium is. Um, I have it defined here. An herbarium is a specialized natural history museum that preserves plant specimens for scientific study. So an herbarium is basically a plant museum, and so we preserve plant specimens there. So another way to think of it is that herbaria are libraries that serve to conserve natural history. So when you think of libraries, you think of like organized and files, and an herbarium is the same way. This is Erin Wiggs. She's our herbarium director. And it says on here UVSC herbarium director because their herbarium was created when UVU was still Utah Valley State College. So it still has that acronym, even though it's a little outdated. So this is a picture of Erin Wiggs, and she is the director and curator of the herbarium. So she basically runs the herbarium. She also prioritizes projects and oversees student research and work. So she is a mentor for botany students or people researching in the herbarium. And she also classifies, organizes, and files plants there. She is a professional systemist, so she works with DNA and evolution, and she's also a certified taxonomist, so that means she classifies the plants of the herbarium as well. So these are pictures of what a cabinet looks like in the herbarium. They're organized into folders, so the plant specimens go on an archival paper and then they're put into a folder, and each folder is organized by genus. So there'll be multiple specimens in each genus folder. And this is just a picture of a student putting away one of the specimens, just an example of how this is organized. And this kind of gives you an example of how an herbarium is like a library. So this is just a closer look up at that picture of the previous student was holding. So it's actually a real plant specimen, and it's mounted onto archival paper, and then a little tag is added onto the archival paper explaining what it is, where it was found, who found it, and elevation, the date, just all the information you would need to know if you were a researcher. So underneath Plants of Utah is the species name, and then to the right of that is the author, and the author is the person who found the plant, originally discovered the plant in the first place. And below that is where it was found specifically, and then below that is the GPS coordinates, and then below the GPS coordinates are the researchers' names who found this specific plant specimen. And then underneath these photos, I have a caption that says, "Vouchers vouch for research and document the biota of Utah." This means that the plants are basically a snapshot in time that can tell us a lot of information about the environment and the atmosphere during that time when the plant was collected. And biota just means just surrounding, just conditions in biology. So it's just a document for just like the life that's around the plant. Vouchers can be used as a peer-reviewed source. So what I mean by this is it can be a resource for people researching and making books and research papers. So this book, Woody Plants of Utah, used the UVU's herbarium specimens as a peer-reviewed source in their book. So UVU has all of the plants documented in their herbarium that are mentioned in this book. And this book, the authors used the UVU herbarium as a resource for writing. It's also, the vouchers are also used as a reference for student projects. So one example of a student project is DNA sequencing. They can take a piece of of a plant specimen and do DNA sequencing on it. They can also work on classifying specimens. Vouchers can be used for lots of different student projects. Vouchers can also be used as a teaching tool for faculty at UVU. So Erin Riggs actually uses all of the grass specimens in the herbarium in her grasses class. So this is pictures of a student seaweed project that is ongoing right now. This student is trying to classify invertebrates they found in seaweed. So they take a microscope and look in the seaweed, and they look for little invertebrates that were living in the seaweed and classifying them. So the invertebrates are on the seaweed on the archival paper. So they were also picked up when the seaweed was collected. This is really important because it just captures a whole community of organisms, so it's not even just the plant anymore. This is an example of a form that you'll fill out when you're out in the field collecting plants. This is what researchers will take out with them when they decide to go collect plants or fungi or mosses and things like that. They will fill this out while they're there, and it's just a really important document that gives a lot of very specific information that can be later be put into a database for a wider audience to reach. So this is just a close-up, just gives you an example of things that you have to fill out. So you put things like the date, if the plant is native, if it's endangered. So the IUCN Red List will tell you the endangered status of the plant, and the locality section is for direct directions. So you'll put in there direct directions from the closest city to where you found that plant. And it needs to be a pretty specific just explanation. So to summarize, herbarium vouchers have a variety of important uses, like student research and faculty use to teach students, and preserved plant specimens tell us a lot about the surrounding habitat, ecosystem, and conditions for the time they were alive. They are a really important snapshot in time of the surrounding area and conditions. Plant collection and identification is important to science. I hope that you guys can learn that from this presentation and remember it. And I also have some references that just talked about herbariums and what they do and why they're important. So thank you for listening.